Hi, I'm Kelly Price, wellness coach for the Functional Medicine Center. And today I just wanted to talk a little bit about the idea of joy. It's a big idea. There's a lot associated with joy. So in this video, I'm going to try to just sort of touch on the basics, and then maybe in another one we can go a little bit more in depth. Um, but I just want to start out with sort of a big truth, which is that joy is one of the hardest emotions for us to feel. And there are two pieces of that. It's difficult for us to feel just in general, and it's also difficult for us to allow ourselves to feel. And we'll go into that more later, but I'm going to start with some of the reasons I think that joy is difficult for us to cultivate, for us to feel, for us to know what joy feels like in the body. I think sometimes when I ask folks, what brings you joy? How does joy feel in the body? What are the characteristics and the traits associated with joy? What traits and characteristics do you currently possess that help bring joy into your life? What can you do that brings you joy? And I think these are often difficult questions for people to answer, and that's for a few reasons. But I think really the biggest reason is that there are some sort of preconditions for being able to truly experience joy and sort of absorb it into our being, to hang on to it for more than a second. And the main one is this idea of rest and quiet and respite, like true rest, and just that pause, just to be present. Um, so, little personal experience here. Birds are my happy place, or one of them. And so like seeing formations of birds fly in the sky is a symbol of freedom and happiness and joy to me. And even though that speaks to my heart so deeply, there are days where I see formations of birds in the sky, but I'm so busy and I'm so stressed that I just don't have the space for it, right? Something that I know is beautiful and brings me joy, I'm not able to really feel it when I'm busy and I'm stressed. And I think most of us sort of live in that place of overextending ourselves, living in this place of stress and busy. And it's very difficult to to feel an emotion that sort of depends on your ability to be present. And I think so we talked about this recently with some of the patients in our practice, and someone said the only time that I'm able to feel joy is when I'm present in right now. I'm not able to feel joy when I'm ruminating on the past, and I'm not able to feel joy when I'm planning or thinking about the future, like just right now. And how many of us live in right now, even a quarter of the time? I mean, for me, I have to constantly bring myself to here I am, right? And so I think it's really difficult for that reason. And even when there's something wonderful and awesome going on, I got married. My daughter is 6. I got married recently, and she was getting her hair done and curled for the first time, and I'm in the room with my best friend, with my mom, with my aunt, with my daughter, with my sister-in-law, and I'm about to do something that I'm really looking forward to, something I'm really happy about, but I was also very stressed, very nervous, and so I wasn't really present. And seeing my daughter get her hair done for the first time could have been, and these women that I love and care about in this room with me, it could have been this magical, compassionate moment. And don't get me wrong, I mean, there was lots of beauty in it. Um, but my stress sort of kept me from experiencing the joy in that moment. It was something that I thought about later, like how awesome that experience was. But in the moment, I was so nervous and so stressed, that I didn't really like feel it in my bones. Like maybe I could have, if I was calm. And so I think we all have experiences like that where we sort of say, oh, that thing was so awesome, and I just wasn't there for it. And so really a big part of it is presence and quiet and that ability to just pause. And a lot of us either don't have it, or don't give ourselves, or don't know how to pause. Um, Taking a deep breath, looking up and around at your surroundings, smiling, um, moving the body, especially like opening up with a deep breath. Like these are all ways to sort of touching something in the hands, I have water here, so but touching something, smelling something, these are all ways to bring you back to present, get back in your body, and help you get into a space where you can feel more joy. Another precondition for joy is just the intention or the perspective. I think setting the intention sort of gets your mind right. Like if you tell yourself, I am joy, I experience joy. If you have the intention of feeling more joy, then it helps your brain sort of get there and take in those experiences. Because as we know, we have this negativity bias, and that is there to protect us because threats and dangers are ever present. And we need to know and remember where those threats and dangers are so that we can avoid them, so we can be well, right? And that served us when the threat or the danger was like, this is where tigers live, so stay away from them, or this is poison mushrooms, don't pick those anymore, right? Like it served us when those were our stresses and our threats. But now, traffic can be a stress or a threat. A boss that's giving you negative feedback can be a stress or a threat. Just people interacting with people in the world, and also just this feeling that we have within ourselves of maybe I'm not doing enough, I'm not enough, or a lack of self-compassion and self-respect. These are also threats and stressors. um, Sometimes the food we eat or things in the environment are threats and stressors that we don't always have control over. And so the negativity bias, it's sort of a hindrance in some situations now. And so we really have to practice. What does joy feel like? And when we have a moment where we feel joy, we sort of have to take this like mental Polaroid, so that we can remember the feeling and hang on to the feeling and come back to the feeling as a memory, because it's not just implicit that that memory is going to stay there. We have to really work to bring that memory in so that we can hang on to that feeling or that experience of joy. So the intention really matters, and the perspective matters just as much. So there is a quote, excuse me real quick while I get to it. There is a quote, and I just wanted to say it right. So it's by an old English writer. His name is Albert Hubbard. And he says, the happiness of this life depends less on what befalls you than the way in which you take it. And I think we've all heard um, you know, heard something like that in our lives, right? Is it's not so much what happens, but how you react to it. That really is the biggest clue into your happiness or your joy or your lack thereof. And so perspective is huge. The person that I really think of when I think about perspective for joy is Marie Kondo. And if you haven't heard of her, she has a book and a Netflix series called The Joy of Tidying Up. And so her whole thing is you can clean your house, you can get rid of stuff you don't need, and it can also be a joyful experience. And Marie Kondo is just super smart. And so one of the ways that she helps people connect with joy through tidying up is recognizing what joy feels like. And this is the way she does it. She says, okay, so if you're cleaning out your t-shirts, go and grab all of your t-shirts, put them in one pile somewhere, and then you pick up each one at a time. So your attention is focused on one thing and you just kind of hold it close to you and notice how you feel. Does it, and she describes happiness or joy as this like zing. Does it give you this like, does it give you this zing? Does it give you this sort of energy inside? Do you feel light? Does a smile come to your face? Do you feel ease? Like how do you feel? Do you get a little zing like, oh, I love this thing? And so it helps you practice the felt experience of joy, because the more we practice it, the more we're able to recognize it and hang on to it when it happens. The other thing that she does, in the same step, is noticing how we react to our environment. And so like you're holding up a shirt and you're noticing how you feel. How do you react to this item? Does it make you feel joy? Awesome. If it does, you should definitely keep that thing. And then you pick up another shirt and you don't have any reaction to it, or maybe you have a negative reaction. Maybe you feel tight, maybe you feel closed, maybe you feel a little bit heavier. And so she's telling you, teaching you how to recognize A, what joy feels like, but also how you react to things in your environment. And so you're learning that the things and the people and the energies in your environment have a direct impact on your experience of joy. So perspective is huge. Other pieces that are important to remember. So self-care is something that I think is a difficult idea for some people, but essentially your ability to nurture yourself. And I think this has a lot to do with self-compassion. And so the more you're able to nurture yourself, I think the more self-compassion that you cultivate, and then that can lend itself to joy. So just taking care of yourself, making yourself a priority, sometimes showing yourself deep respect, and knowing that you're worthy to be taken care of, and you can be the one that takes care of you. And I think that is a huge factor in how we grow and cultivate joy. Um, okay, another one, play and lightheartedness. So I think this one is huge. And there is, well, I suppose there was, pioneer play researcher. His name was Brian Sutton Smith. And he said the opposite of play isn't work. The opposite of play is depression. So I just invite you to reflect on that. Play, lightheartedness, laughter. Um, what do those things do for you? And then the one that I really want to touch on here, like the big one, is the bravery it takes to lean into vulnerability. So when we feel incapable or unwilling to be vulnerable, which means to be authentic and to allow our emotions to be felt, not to numb them, not to resist, not to escape, not to withdraw, but to really allow ourselves to feel our emotions. So the things we do to numb negative or bad emotions also numbs the good ones, the ones that we might want more of, like joy. So the things we do to disconnect, to withdraw, to resist or move away from stress, anxiety, depression, fear, anxiety, I said that already, also also really create space between us and bliss and joy and gratitude. Um, and so being willing to lean into your felt experience, being willing to just allow what you're feeling to come up, and experience it is really important. And so one of the things that goes along with this is gratitude. And so gratitude and vulnerability are deeply interwoven into joy. And so you may have heard this very famous lady's name before, Brene Brown. So she is a researcher and she does a lot of research on shame. And one of the things that she did in her decade plus of shame research is she also researched joy. um, and so 20,000 pieces of data, she says. She interviewed 20,000 people in over a decade, so many years of research. And what she found was there was not a single person who experienced joy, who described their life as joyful, described themselves as a joyful person, that didn't also embrace vulnerability and have a consistent gratitude practice. And so this is what she says about that. And there are so many videos of Brene Brown talking about vulnerability, joy, and gratitude. I mean, you can put Brene Brown, joy, vulnerability, gratitude into YouTube or into Google, and just a plethora of things will pop up for you. So if you want to learn more. But one of the things that she talks about is foreboding joy. And so when we are incapable or unwilling to lean into vulnerability, to feel what we feel, and to be genuine and honest about it, then it's very difficult for us to feel joy, and it becomes foreboding to feel joy. So this is the example she gives. She says, if you're a parent, have you ever stood over your child while they were sleeping and thought, God, I love you more than I thought possible. Like you are my stars and my moon and my sun, and to really feel how important they are to you. And then in that same moment, in that same breath, think about something terrible happening to them. I think I think a lot of us have been there. And if you don't have children, what about things are going really well with your partner? You feel financially stable, work is good, and then you're like, you recognize that. You're like, oh, things are good with my partner, and things are good at work, and like money's good. I'm paying the rent, paying all my bills, and you're like, huh, what's gonna happen? Right? And you're just kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. And so it can be very difficult to allow yourself to feel how how lucky you are, to feel the joy in that moment, because you're like, oh, well, how's it going to be taken away? Right? And so we think that when we have those moments of joy, getting space, like expecting the worst, we think that that protects us. Um, but it doesn't. It just stops us from feeling joy, which is a beautiful thing and something that I don't think any of us want for ourselves. We want more joy, not less, right? And so the inability or the unwillingness to lean into all that those experiences bring up, it can just create a block, a wall from us for experiencing it. Um, and so what she talks about is, she says, without gratitude, there is no prosperity. And so when we recognize what we have, when we recognize that we feel joy, when we recognize there is an experience that brings us joy, without gratitude, the thought is it's going to be taken away and I have to protect myself from that pain, right? And so the way that we can sort of um, lean into that feeling and sort of overcome that foreboding is to practice gratitude, is to say, I am so grateful for this beautiful child in my life. No matter what happens, right here, right now, I have everything I need. Or I'm so grateful for this job that provides for me, or this partner and our relationship and how much they care about me and how much I trust them, right? Leaning into how much you appreciate that experience, that person, that characteristic, that trait, and expressing outwardly your gratitude is shown not just in Brene Brown's research, but thousands of research articles, that expressing your gratitude helps to grow and strengthen the joy that you bring into your life. So that was a lot, and I didn't mean for this to be 18 minutes. But if you hung on, thank you so much for your time and attention. And I welcome more conversations like this in the future. Thank you. Take good care.